What's going on, guys? It's the Panda and Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome, and of course, I'm joined by the God of Night himself, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. DeepBoyce, what are we talking about today?
Talking about some news with the upcoming Han Solo prequel, because we know Marvel/Disney, they're making... Actually, it's Disney, not Marvel. Disney's making a Star Wars every year until the end of time. So this year, 2017, we're getting Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And next year, 2018,
can't wait.
We're getting the untitled Han Solo film. Jesus, that's a Han Solo film. Han Solo, a Star Wars story. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that better.
But
Han Solo, a Star Wars story.
But anyway, we got some news apparently giving us some details about what the movie's going to be about and how it's going to play out. And two things. One that's more odd than the other. One of them is that the movie's going to span over 6 years, I believe, of Han Solo's life.
Yes,
so he's going to be,
6 years.
18, 19 to like 25 or so? Is that, I think that's what
I think I read the same thing. I think it was like 19 or late teens, something along those lines. I think you're correct.
And the other one is that apparently Han Solo is not his name. We're going to find out his real name.
As in, Han Solo ain't Han Solo's name.
Etc. I don't even know where to start with this. My head is all jumbled with this nonsense. So
Can we start with the blasphemy first?
Let's start with the blasphemy.
Why? Why is his name? Why can't his name be Han Solo? Like, what is the problem with that? I don't get that.
I think that is extremely dumb to do, unless they're trying to do something even more dumb, where you find out he's actually Rey's father or something.
Oh my god!
Where you find out?
Don't please. I don't believe that.
You find out Rey's last name, and in the next movie, they reveal to you Han Solo's real name. I don't know.
This is why I generally don't like the idea of prequels. Now, you might be like, "Hey, you sound like a hypocrite because you love Star Wars. You love Rogue One." I do love Rogue One. I think that's a great movie. But I am not shy about saying I did not like the idea of Rogue One one bit. The idea that you're taking one line from the premise of another movie, like, Rebels acquired the plans to Death Star, and making a whole movie about it. That being said, what they did was they respected the original trilogy. Yes. They respected it. They didn't fiddle with or play in the lore to expound upon anything regarding the original trilogy characters themselves, per se. Like Darth Vader, we know he had a fantastic scene that is one of the best cinematic appearances of Darth Vader of all time. I wouldn't even mind if they even put the end of Rogue One at the beginning of A New Hope and just call that movie A New Hope. I wouldn't even be mad if they did that. But, they may have had that scene. They may have had a cameo by Prince Leia, but they didn't expound upon the characters in a way that made you feel like, they're changing the original trilogy. This, for me, they might not feel this way, but for me, it changes something. Because yes, we know he's a scoundrel. We know that he's definitely not the cleanest guy in the galaxy in terms of his reputation. But the man at least had something, and that was his name. His name. And I just feel like it's silly. There's no reason. Like, I just feel like even if you have like a cool story for why you changed the name, it just, to me, I'm just like, leave the original trilogy alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone, man. Don't touch it.
I'm in a different boat when it comes to prequels. I actually like prequels. However, when it comes to prequels and when it comes to movies in general, especially when you're making franchises, the first question is, do we need to tell this story? That's always
that's a good point.
Very first question. Do I need to tell this story right now? And like you said, you got to respect the reason something like Rogue One is great, and the prequels aren't completely terrible. They redeemed themselves in a sense. is because they eventually began to respect the original movies to a degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To say that Han Solo's name is, I don't know. It's. I guess the word that comes to mind is cheeky. Where it's like they kind of popped out of a corner and they're like, hey, don't you know, that's not really his name. It's going to be exciting, right? It's just like, no, it's not going to be exciting. Nobody wants this. Why do you need to do this?
Why?
And I think back and I don't remember entirely Han Solo's lore. I think Han Solo was maybe an orphan or something. He's from Corellia, which is, it's a human planet, or it's like an outer rim or something like that, and I guess smuggling is prevalent there. It's not as bad as other planets, but you could definitely grow up as like a street rat. He's probably an orphan. He was probably poor, and he's somehow like, I'm assuming what they're gonna do is that Han Solo is maybe somebody else. Maybe it was a name that he adopted in honor of somebody or something. I just hope, like I jokingly said earlier, that this is not some sort of bigger mini-chlorians nonsense where they're just like, what's his name? Oh my god, his name is actually Kenobi. His name is Ronald Kenobi. And I'm just like, come on. Why would you do that? Like I would
say Ronald Kenobi.
I would shit, like I would take a dump in my hand and throw it at the movie screen if I'm sitting there watching this and that happens. Like, oh, he's actually Kenobi. It's like, it's such a small universe. And it's like, no. And Han Solo is such a great, like, that's one of the best fictional names ever. That is an awesome name. Why do you have to change it?
It's an awesome name.
Because now forever, for the rest of time, whenever you think of Han Solo, you're going to think of his real name, Kyle Johnson or something. Like, it's
absolutely. At the end of the day, it brings him back. Like, he's this cool character that honestly has become a movie icon. It brings him back down to earth. It brings him down a notch. Like, 40 years after the original damn movie came out, we're going to tell you, by the way, this isn't his real name.
Yeah.
Not even that. There's the fact that it's like, just because we purchased this property, just because we now own it, we can do whatever we want. Like, we're going to change Han Solo's name.
Yeah.
Right? George Lucas definitely didn't intend for Han Solo's name not to be Han Solo. That was his name. That's what I'm trying to say. Going into this source material and mucking it up, I just don't like that. In principle, even though it may seem small, but guess what? This is a spectacular spoiler league, man. We're not here to debate the laws and practices of the U.S. government. We're here to talk about comics and fandom and movies and TV and games. Okay, we're nerds. Yeah. So we're going to be tight when you be like, I'm going to just change Han Solo's name. Like, it's asinine. It just doesn't there's no reason. It's annoying. It's annoying, man. And it's just like, hey, we're going to make you spend your money just so you can see what the story's about. It's just like,
And oddly enough, I don't, like, I do like prequels, as I said. But I like when they're done prequels are very hard to do well.
Yes. Yes.
But I do like them when they're done well. And Han Solo movies, for me, like, just objectively speaking, I would kind of be down for that, depending on what it is they do. If you're doing Han Solo, from before he got involved with the Rebels, and you have Lando, and you have maybe a few other characters, and it has nothing to do with anything that happened in the Star Wars movies. It's just like a day in the life of Han Solo. This is just one of the many adventures of Han Solo way back in the day. I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that. Like, I think that's the major thing. I fear that this is gonna. They just can't help themselves but to tie into the main episodes 4 through 6. Like, they should just stop. If you're gonna do these Star Wars stories, don't tie them into that. Do justice to Han Solo, and maybe there are tangential things. People talk about certain, like the Clone Wars or something going on, or that they happened. But I would like to see Han Solo going through adventures, being charismatic with Lando and all that, and it doesn't have anything to do with some of the major characters or the major story that we're already satisfied and done with.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to say, I left this person out when I was talking about Rogue One not really expounding too much on the original trilogy characters, because it did include one character, and that's Tarkin. They did kind of, give give him a little bit more.
Damn.
You got people street racing outside.
He's about to enter into
jump
into light speed back there.
We got the next Fast and Furious movie. Apparently, one of my neighbors heard that they're changing Han Solo's name and they're speeding their way to Disney right now.
He's like,
they're like, yo, I can't. Like, they're like, nonsense! I must stop this. But yeah, so they did expound upon talking, but once again, they didn't step outside of his characterization. They just showed you like, yo, this guy's a shrewd politician, and he got this way because, he is who he is. So once again, they respected the original trilogy. And another thing is, and this has kind of been a pet peeve, where I don't want you to recast a character. Like, don't cast a person to play a younger version of a character. Especially, like, an adult casting an adult to play a younger version of, like, someone who's not that old in the first place. So, like, Han Solo was not that old in the movies, in the original trilogy. And you're going to cast a random actor to play Han Solo who's not that far off from how old Han Solo was in the movies. I'm just kind of like, it's one thing if you cast, like, a kid to play a young Han Solo. Or Han Solo was, like, let's say, perfect example, actually. Ben Kenobi in the original trilogy versus Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Where, yes, they're old, they're both adults, but Obi-Wan is super old. Well, and Ewan McGregor actually looks like he could be a young Alec McGinnis. That's okay.
Here's the thing, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually looking that up. Because I remember hearing a while back that Harrison Ford, when he finally had his big break in A New Hope, that I thought he was in his 30s or like 30, but he was actually 35 years old in A New Hope.
Like his age? Yes. Like his actual age?
Harrison Ford, yeah. He was actually 35 years old.
Damn. Like Harrison Ford or Han Solo?
Harrison Ford. I don't know how old Han Solo is supposed to be, but I'm assuming it would be similar. Like Han Solo seems like he's in his 30s.
I would say so.
So, like, I guess
Princess Leia is, by the way, she's 19 in those movies. Just so you guys understand, but the potential age difference there. She's 19 in that movie because Luke is 19 and they're twins. Yeah. They weren't separated by a couple years, separated by a couple minutes. But anyway,
but what you're saying still kind of stands because Alec McGinnis, rest in peace. He was really old in A New Hope.
Yeah. He was really old. He was an old dude.
And it worked out doing the prequels, given the time period. It all just kind of worked out and made sense. It wasn't, obtuse, I guess. It wasn't obstructive. It didn't kind of take you out of what you were watching. Sure. But yeah, I can't disagree with. Not that I have a problem with this new actor, but he doesn't look like Harrison Ford.
I don't have a problem with him.
They don't look. No,
alike. He doesn't.
They don't look alike. But
they don't look alike.
When people have a problem with that, I can totally understand that. I do. Again, my thing is I like the Han Solo character, and I wouldn't mind seeing a movie or two about him when he's younger. But I don't want them to. I want it to have nothing to do with A New Hope and any of those movies. Because I think that would allow them more creativity to do interesting stuff.
Sure. I just think they should just leave it be. And like you might say, all right, well, they made prequel movies for Star Wars. Like, I want to clarify, I don't hate prequels. I just don't like the idea of prequels because I feel like people always get the impression of, HazyRome and DeepBoyce are doing this podcast now. Let's tell the story of how Hazy got his first microphone. Just like, come on. Like it's like they that's why I didn't like Rogue One's idea conceptually. Because they take a small idea and then try to stretch it. That's the problem. They stretch it. But Rogue One told a great story where they basically told us a war story, a military campaign. And I like that. That was fine.
That's it.
That was good. They did it the right way. But typically speaking, when people do prequels, they tend to take the small detail and stretch it out to the point where you're like, why do I even care about this? Why should I even care about this?
That's a very good point.
Why should I care about this? Now with the Star Wars prequels,
on things that aren't just interesting at all, because I guess whatever is interesting starts with the character. Like when you see him in those movies, like maybe maybe there's really nothing that's all that interesting before New Hope that Han Solo was involved in.
Right. They take something that's relatively arbitrary, and they turn it into a movie. Now, where Rogue One ties into Star Wars is the idea was they said from the beginning they wanted to tell a war story. Within the, because if you look at Star Wars, in the prequels, obviously there was the Clone Wars going on, but you rarely get to see like the actual like battles. Like you actually don't really get to see a war waged, very often, because in Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars begins. You see the Battle of Geonosis, and then you see the end in Revenge of the Sith. You don't get to see what's in the middle. And where like the prequels, I didn't mind the idea of the Star Wars prequel movies because I felt that, yes, it was dangerous, very dangerous to play with Darth Vader to show his origins. Very dangerous. But conceptually, it was a cool idea to be like, all right, we know Darth Vader used to be a Jedi. Let's tell the story of this Jedi's fall. That was a compelling concept because from the beginning, this whatever clean Jedi they introduce is destined to be this evil villain. That is in principle a cool idea. But when you tell me like, oh, we're gonna tell the story of Han Solo over 6 years, his name ain't really Han Solo. He forged his birth certificate and lied to George Lucas when he popped off the pages of the script. He's like, yo, George Lucas, I'm gonna change my name in 40 years. You know that, right? Like, it's just, I'm not a fan of that. And, that bleeds into the next, the first topic we brought up. The first idea was that they're telling, it's going to take place over 6 years in the movie. I don't know what that means. I don't know how they're going to do that. But I hope it means something where you see him when he's young, something goes wrong, and the bulk of the movie takes place 6 years later. I don't want to see like a day in the life of Han Solo for over the course of 6 years. Don't need it.
That worries me. And that I don't really like. Because again, they're stifling their creativity. Because if you do a movie where it's like, oh, remember that time where Han Solo and Lando, they got imprisoned by the Hutts because they owed them a whole bunch of money, and how did the hell they get out of that? Like that right there within, I don't know, that's a week, even a month, that's a story, totally fine. But to do it, the feeling that I'm getting, and this is I'm starting to like this less and less. Because I remember reading that, you're also going to find out how he got the Millennium Falcon. They won it through like some sort of deal or something like that. He beat Lando in like a gamble. I feel that they're going to start to focus. You're going to have scenes where they're just like, here's the Millennium Falcon. And they're going to play the Star Wars music. It's like, you remember it was that thing you grew up with, the Millennium Falcon. It's like, and look at, who's that? Who's that that's chasing him? And then halfway through the movie, it's like, oh my God, that's Boba Fett. This is when it starts. It's just like, no, like just let go.
Once again,
let go of that.
Arbitrary details. Yeah. Hey, this guy has a cool ship. How did he get it? No one cares. It's his ship.
Yeah,
he won in a gamble from Lando. That's all the backstory you need.
And that's what makes it cool. That's what makes it endearing. That you just
exactly.
It's like a small piece of dialogue that they probably didn't even intend to be a big deal, but the fans loved it, and they just made it into what it is now. It's just part of the lore, part of something that's interesting.
Yo, Han and Chewie are best friends, but how did they meet? It's like, that. Come on,
I wouldn't be surprised if they have a scene where he frees them from slavers or something like that, and it's like, they play the Star Wars music, it's like, they're together. Oh my God. Come on.
I'm not saying the movie's going to be bad. It's just, in principle, the problem and the worry that comes with prequels. That's all, especially as a fan. Han Solo, I don't want this movie. I don't want it. I'm going to put it out there and say, I don't want it. Now, if you would have said to me, like, hey, did you want Rogue One? I would have said no. And guess what? I still stand by that. I didn't need Rogue One, but it was a pleasant surprise. I'll give you that. Yeah. But that's all I'm saying. I didn't want Rogue One. I didn't need Rogue One, but it was a pleasant surprise. I did need Darth Vader doing his thing. I'll give you that. But it was a pleasant surprise. And that's all I'll give you. I didn't need Rogue One. And I still don't need Rogue One. It's nice that it exists, but I don't need it. I didn't need it. And that's the same thing that I'm going to say about Han Solo. Same thing I'm going to say about that. I'm sorry.
They're treading into dangerous waters. And the idea that...
What if that movie tanks? What if that movie tanks, bro? What if it's terrible?
One of the best characters, and it's Star Wars, and people are waiting. People are waiting to say, hey, this is not going to be good. Don't make all these movies. I told you so. People are waiting with Star Wars and the superhero movies. They're waiting for something to just massively just fail and not be good.
You know what's funny? When they were talking about prequel movies that they were gonna possibly anthology films. They were calling them at the time, back when Disney first purchased Star Wars. They were talking about, what movies could they do? And some of the rumored movies were, one was Han Solo, one was an Obi-Wan, interquel movie that took place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and one was a Yoda movie, right? Which we could see, the other two movies. We could see the Yoda and Obi-Wan movie still.
You know what?
But
I actually would not want to see a Yoda movie.
Agreed, because I feel like the way he talks would be crazy annoying over the course of a movie with him as the main character. That would be wild annoying.
Like
I don't want to see.
If they got Ewan McGregor to do a older Obi-Wan movie, I wouldn't necessarily mind, depending on what it is.
When I heard all those ideas, the one that I was most vehemently against was Han Solo. Yeah. I was like, why? Why? Like, why does he need? Like, I literally was sitting there trying to what does he need? What else needs to be explained about Han Solo? Mm-hmm. I could see you wanted to say, all right, Yoda. I wouldn't want it, but I was like, all right, the dude's 1,000 years old almost.
No, I don't want to. I'm not interested. Like, I
don't want to see it, but I at least understand that idea. Like, all right, well, let's tell a story about how he became the great Jedi that he was. Yeah. Fine, get it. Cool. Obi-Wan, I get that. There's time in between that you want to tell a story about. That being said, I also was very worried about that because I was like, it's dangerous to play around with that. Having seen Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels, I'm totally up for that now, because you see that sometimes things can happen that don't necessarily affect what happened in A New Hope. Who's to say Obi-Wan didn't have a journey or two? Or a mission or two in between. So, but as far as Han Solo goes, I'm not saying it's not going to be good. I just don't want it. Yeah. I don't want it. I didn't need it. Yeah. So, all the best to the movie. All the best to Childish Gambino. All the best to Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, Ehrenreich or something.
All the best to... Yeah. All the best to... what's that girl's name? Amelia... Clark, oh, yes. All the best to her. All the best to freaking Woody Harrelson. But I don't want that movie. And don't change the man's name.
Yeah. I mean,
I will go into the Disney archives and I will burn up. I will steal the scripts and I will burn them. And I will do whatever it takes. Don't change his name.
Ultimately,
leave it alone.
If I were to put my money on it, I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, and
it is probably is gonna be good.
But yeah, they need to chill out.
It is good. I should say it is good. It does serve. It does have a chance of being good. Please don't play this game. Stop rolling the dice like this. Don't do this, because if it's bad, it's not gonna be good. Obviously, but I mean that in a larger context. If it's bad, it ain't gonna be good. People not gonna like that. But anyway. I think that's it for us on the context of on the subject of Han Solo, man. We're getting out of here, guys. Yep. Tell us what you think in the comments. Drop us a like if you like the video. Let us know what you think about the Han Solo movie, and what the hell do you think Han Solo's name actually is? I don't know. We'll see. Do you have a guess, DeepBoyce? Richard Kenobi's your guess?
Yeah, I think it's...
Would you say Richard Ricardo? Would you say Richard Kenobi's? Ronald. Oh, man. Oh, that's funny, man. Anyway, we're getting out of here, guys. We'll see you guys later.